Ever looked at a blueprint and thought, this is just the beginning of something incredible? Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast, where we believe the most extraordinary builds start with you.
I'm Sean Foyer,
the Universal Mindset Disruptor.
For over 2 decades, I've turned simple plans into remarkable realities in the home improvement world. Now, I'm here to help you do the same for your life and for your business. Make sure to take some notes, and most importantly, enjoy the ride.
Live, baby. Windshield time. Sean.
What's going on, Joe? How are you, man?
I love it. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today on this beautiful Friday?
Same. You want to talk about E plus R equals O? You want to talk about process over outcome? What do you want to talk about? Let me ask you this. What do you, when you're a busy guy working with a bunch of sales pros in our industry and have been for a long time. What do you find is most common area that needs to get addressed?
Well, the one thing that came up, I got a couple questions around it from some sales managers I work with, some business owners, and even some sales reps have asked me this. And Joe, I'd love your feedback on this too. But why do people go off the system? Like, I'm not a systems coach, and I talk all the time that if you do the system right, the only reason it doesn't work is if your mindset is messed up, right? But for some guys, they're not even following the system. So if I fix your mindset and you don't follow the system, so why don't we follow the system? If we have a proven process in place that works, that the company has a track record of success with, why does a rep decide not to use the system? That's one that drives me crazy. And, I don't teach systems. I teach mindset to help systems work better. But again, the mindset won't work. You can have the best mindset in the world, but if you're all over the place, you're not following a system, you're not doing a good needs assessment, you're not building value and doing tie downs every step of the way, it's not going to work, and you're going to blame it on the lead, the customer, the weather, all kinds of bullshit on the outside that has nothing to do with what you just did wrong. So, how do we get people to take more accountability for, okay, my success is okay. And the worst part is when somebody goes off the system and it works.
Yeah.
Now they've got a new paradigm that this one time I did it and it works, and I'm going to override the 20 years of experience of it working with the company and use my one time, and then they don't have continued success and keep hoping for that one success. So, I think a lot of it is just being honest and open with yourself and say, am I using the tools that have been given to me? And if I'm not, what's my hang up? Because it's got to be something inside of me that's keeping me from using it. What's your experience with people? Because you've managed a lot of sales professionals, and you are one yourself. Why do we go off script? Why do we change the system?
Well, I think the root cause, and this is going to sound like it's obvious, but it's they don't believe in it, right? You're not going to do something if you don't believe in it. So in the beginning, when you hire a sales rep, I was taught a long time ago, hey, look, some of it's got to be a little blind faith. And then that blind faith will turn into belief. And then the other thing that pops in my mind that you taught me, and actually it's become one of my favorite books, is the knowing doing gap, right? We already know what to do, but we let the noise and the disturbance and the outside disruptions prevent us from taking the actions.
Yeah, and for anybody that's listening and that hasn't heard that before, let's talk about that, because I think you just nailed it right on the head. The number one reason people don't use a process that they know at some level works is a belief system that's behind it. And we call it the knowing doing gap. What am I not doing that I know I probably should be? And a lot of times I'll take it outside of the sales process and say, let's look at your health and wellness. You've told me you feel like you're out of shape, you get winded, you said your body weight's not where you want it to be. What do you know that could get you in better shape? Drink more water, exercise, eat better food, skip dessert. Okay, so you know it. Why aren't you doing it? And it's the same with sales process. You've got a needs assessment that has 20 questions you're supposed to ask. You're asking 2 or 3 of them. You should ask all 20. You've been coached and managed on it. Why aren't you doing it? The gap between what we know and what we do is caused by a self-limiting, usually, belief. I call them paradigms, which is a collection of thoughts, habits, and beliefs. But that's exactly what it is. If you want to close the gap on what you know and what you do, you got to do some mindset work. And if you want your sales process to work the way it was intended, if you want your eating plan to work, if you want your relationship to work better, we really got to get conscious and hyper-focused on what knowing doing gaps do I have? Where am I falling short on something that I actually know something better or different to do? and I'm not doing it?
Yeah. So, God, man, now you get me all fired up. The book you gave me a couple years back, it's not even a book, but I give it out now. I think you gave it to me. I could be wrong.
The common denominator of success. Yeah.
Yep.
I got it from Bob Proctor. And, the difference between, and in that book, Joe, it describes the difference between successful people or successful sales reps and unsuccessful is successful people are willing to do the unpleasant process to get the pleasant result. And sometimes it's difficult. When I'm getting in shape, when I go to the treadmill at 6 a.m., that's not fun. That's an unpleasant process. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on the result of feeling better, getting in better shape, and looking better. When I'm following a sales process, there's parts of it that you might not like. And if you focus on that, you won't do it. But if you focus on the end result, a sale, it will help you go through the unpleasant process. And, time and time, I heard Les Brown say it not that long ago on a video I was watching, hard choices now, easy life later. Easy choices, taking the easy road now, hard life later. And it's the same in sales. If I skip all the work on the front end, it's a lot harder to close. If I do the hard work on the front end, ask the needs assessment, build value, maybe get uncomfortable, maybe make the customer get a little uncomfortable for a moment as they get their thoughts disrupted. If I do the hard work up front to build the trust and confidence, the ease comes in. We used to always say closing is the natural progression of a masterful presentation and a masterful process, right? And, if you want to get that, you got to do more of the stuff you are uncomfortable with.
First principles, man. You can't worry about the scoreboard if you don't execute the steps leading up to that chance to score. I was just going to say, I'm sure many that are listening to this call, it's a frustrating thing. I think, again, there's a bunch of reasons, but then there's also, at the end of the day, there needs to be some expectations. It's my new go-to is, some of these things are non-negotiable, right? Like I don't go to work at Chick-fil-A and say, you know what? I'm just not going to say my pleasure. No, you're going to do it.
And what? No Chick-fil-A sauce, Joe?
Yeah, right? But you know what I mean? Like, hey, man, I don't care. There's certain things like you can have the freedom with, but my pleasure principle is what I'm going to call it from here on out. And it's just, that's a non-negotiable if you want to work here. And I'm going to do everything to coach and help and support you. So then you take it a step further or back up, and it falls on the sales manager to have the belief and then hold them accountable. I worked with a sales manager. Many years ago who actually, he's in the group, great guy. I don't want to say his name because I just don't want him to be like, dude, what the heck? But
yeah,
he'll appreciate this because he was the one that told me. He actually started off as a sales rep. Didn't really. He did okay. But it wasn't really necessarily his cup of tea day in and day out. And then he transitioned to actually working in an administrative role for the other sales managers on the team. Anyway, fast forward a couple of years of that, he actually was promoted into a sales manager role. And I remember, and he had one of the best teams in the business because there were a couple different teams in the particular office. And I said, "What's your trick?" And he said, "Well, I don't know any more than the model. So I just require everybody on my team to be on the model because I don't have anything else to teach them."
Which is actually a blessing for someone who's teaching process, right? Don't go off script. Teach the I love that.
He just pounded it home, and he was like, "Look, if that fails me, then I have a bigger problem." But it never has.
Well, and going back and just reinforcing, you talked about it. McDonald's, whether you like it or not, is consistent. They have a business model, and if you buy a franchise and run it the way they tell you to, you're going to be successful. It's like guaranteed success if you follow the system. Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's some pretty damn good chicken. Whatever they put on the skin of that, when they, you know what I mean? And they follow the system. If they changed it, they wouldn't get the same result. And so many times, I remember years ago, and I don't remember this gentleman's name, but I was at a conference and I sat next to a Renault by Anderson window dealer from, I believe, Buffalo, New York. And their company only did canvassing. And as you know, a canvassing lead can be a different kind of lead. But they had written everywhere, all over the place. Oh my gosh, what were the initials? DFWTS. And he looked at me and he said, "It means don't fuck with the system." But that was the dude. That was like, don't fuck with the system. We've worked this out. We have a 40% closing ratio. We have an average ticket size of X. We have a closing ratio of X. consistently across the board. It's called the law of averages. It's mathematics. If you follow my system, you'll make at least this much a year. Just go do it. And then again, today we're talking about mindset. So why don't we do it? I mean, I remember, I taught the certified contractor sales process. I used it in my business for quite a few years. I taught it for almost 5 years. They have 29 needs assessment questions. They call them measure call. Of the 29 questions, and I used to teach, live groups of 30 or 40 sales professionals from all over the country. Of those 29 questions, there was at least 5 that everybody in the room had some issue with. And they say, I don't want to ask about the budget. I don't want to ask if they have kids. I don't want to ask. And I'd say, well, what is your issue with asking about the money? And come to find out, and you said this at the beginning of this call today, Joe, it's belief. They believed it was awkward to talk about money. If you're a sales professional, you have to talk about money. The whole point is to get it down to money, to resolve the price objection, to get this signed. But if you don't dare ask a question, and again, I can ask the question because I'm comfortable and I'll get good information. If you ask it and you don't believe in it or you're awkward, it's only weird if you make it weird. And the second you make it weird with your energy, now you got people blowing up on you, reinforcing your self-limiting belief and saying, I can't ask that question. The only reason you can't ask a question is if you haven't dealt with your personal hang-up on it. And once you remove the personal hang-up, there's no problem with the question. I mean, literally, you can ask what you think is the most uncomfortable question, and if you get comfortable with it, it's not uncomfortable. It's just information to serve the customer better. I mean, I want to know your budget. I want to make sure we're talking dollars and cents that matter. We use equipment, power equipment, dangerous equipment. I want to know if you have kids, young children, pets. What do we have to worry about? All these things that I found sales professionals give me resistance on. I'm not going to say that, Sean. Well, it's part of the process. You need to say it. I feel weird saying it. And I was grateful when they'd say it, because the worst thing that can happen is they don't say it, and then they go on the home and they don't do it. And anybody listening, if you're in a sales system that you're struggling with, go to your manager, go to whoever you report to, and be honest, open, and vulnerable and say, hey, I really want to do better. I want to follow the system, but I'm uncomfortable. This doesn't feel like me. It feels like I'm being somebody else, and it feels awkward. Can you help me make it my own so I feel more comfortable, right?
Yeah. And I think also, we've talked about this before, everything initially we do for the first time is awkward. I didn't jump on a little bike as a kid and go, oh, easy peasy. But the more you do it, the more comfortable, 100%. But initially you can't, the old adage, don't knock it till you try it. Don't knock it until you master it. Prove it wrong.
Well, and again, like you said, we don't want to do it because it's uncomfortable, but the only reason it's uncomfortable is it's not part of your programmed pattern behavior. We've talked about before in the past, Joe, 95% of your day is programmed. The way you put your pants on, the way you get dressed, for me, the way I shave my head, even the way I wear my hat, I do it the same. I straighten the brim. I don't think about it. I just do it. The food I eat, the way I speak, that was all programmed into me. And if I want to get different results, I got to change some of that programming. And with the power of affirmation, first a decision, affirmation, spaced repetition of thought, doing something differently, I can get comfortable. And that's where the growth is. If you take questions you're uncomfortable with and you get comfortable, you've grown as a person. If you take a sales goal that feels really impossible and you get comfortable with it in your mind, I can promise that it's by law, by physical law, if you get your mind wrapped around and in full belief on anything, it will come into your experience, whether it's money, health and wellness, or relationships. The only thing blocking you at any level is you. And Joe, that's an uncomfortable conversation to have. What, you mean it's my fault? For me in 2014, I was going through financial struggles. I was going through health challenges, and I was getting ready. I didn't know it yet, but I was getting ready for divorce within the next 2 years. And I literally looked at my life as a mess and said, this is all my fault? What about this person that did that? What about the 2008 recession? What about this that kicked my ass? What about this? What about this? At the end of the day, and you talked about it early, we can dive into it a little bit. E plus R equals O. The events are going to happen, and I have to take accountability for my role, my responsibility in those events. And it's how I react or respond in every situation that creates my outcome. I mean, that is E plus R equals O. Events happen. We have zero control over most events that happen to us. The weather, people not showing up, the economy, who's president. We have very little control of all that stuff. In that equation, we have control of the R, right? E plus R. So when we take an event, we say it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. We add the R. Now there's 2 R's available. A reactive R, which is an emotional response, get pissed off, have road rage, tell somebody to F off, whatever it is, that will create a bad outcome. If we pause, and we talk about in sales the power of the pause. In life, the power of the pause between stimuli and response is where the magic's at. And if I pause and think a better thought and respond powerfully, I create a better outcome in every situation that I'm put in. And as you know, Joe, I've been put in some pretty challenging situations the last few years, with divorce, with death of many loved ones, both my parents, my younger brother. Like, I've had a lot of stuff happen that I couldn't fix. I couldn't control. I couldn't make them well. I couldn't save them. And I've had to deal with the repercussions of that, throughout my entire family. And it's like, I only control my response, and I'm going to respond with gratitude. I'm going to respond with, how can I reframe this in my mind so I feel better, so I take better actions and continue to build better results?
Yeah, I think we need to change it to, it's really, I was joking about this the other day. We're going to have to add like E plus R plus R plus R equals O. So that way because you have your initial response, your emotion, your initial reaction. But then you can reflect and then respond.
I can't tell you how many times I'm working with a new sales professional or maybe even a business owner, and I teach them this concept, and a week later I get a call and they say, oh my gosh, I had an E plus R equals moment, but I messed it up. I reacted. But the good news is I went back a day later and responded. And that's sometimes what happens. Like, the first step is just awareness. When you get in a sticky situation, you go back and say, shit, I reacted. I was a dick. I said shit I shouldn't have. I blamed the other person. Whatever it is that you reacted that probably didn't serve the situation. And that's the coolest thing about this awareness. It's just awareness. Could I have responded differently? And to me, it's never too late for an apology. It's never too late for forgiveness. It's never too late to make something you did wrong right. And if you just understand at a high level that it was your action, your response or reaction that created the outcome you're not liking, take accountability. I mean, at the end of the day, E plus R equals O is all about 100% accountability. I am responsible for my results. And even if somebody else impacts them, the way I respond to that impact, they're my results. It's my life. It's my circumstance. It's my situation. If I want to change it, I know a lot of people talk about, oh, our price is too high for this market. In my area, the story is blah, blah, blah. How many rags to riches success stories have we heard of an individual? I was born to a single mother, right? I was born on welfare in shitty financial conditions. And, I didn't have any privilege per se. I had a beautiful man come into my life, my stepdad that raised me, and he taught me hard work ethic. His parents were immigrants. He didn't come here with a bank full. He learned how to sell when he was a teenager, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, Joe. My stepdad that raised me was such a good salesman that when he was 18 years old, him and his best friend toured all of Europe on his dime. And he'd started selling door-to-door seeds for people's gardens, and then he went to selling pots and pans in the home where he'd invite people to a dinner party. This is an 18-year-old kid cooking and selling these $2,000 back in the day. And that's how he owned the skills. That's what I learned from. So nothing was handed to me. I was just given a lot of good information, and I put it to use. And if you're not having the success you deserve, get over it. Stop blaming the past. Okay, so your dad left you. Mine did too. Oh, so screwed you over. I can't tell you how many times, and I know you've experienced it. I've had people beat me out of money. I've had people change business agreements, blah, 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 blah. It's all noise. And at the end of the day, You are responsible for your results, and your results start with your first thought, then your belief, then your action. And if you don't get in good results, don't take more action until you fix your thinking. You've got some kind of thinking block if you're creating the same result over and over again.
Yeah, we could digest a ton of this right here because it's so critical. The other thing I'll add to it, and back to our original, was why does somebody not do it? And I think it's become more and more prevalent. Or why does a rep shortcut a lead, whatever? And that's solely because you're attached to the result.
You're attached to your belief system too, right? And I hate to say it, but some of our beliefs, most of our beliefs that are programmed, came from other people. So they're not ours. And a lot of them might not even be true for that person, but they're most likely not true for you. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that, oh my gosh, I make more as a sales pro than my parents made combined working a blue collar job or two blue collar jobs their whole life. and they're holding themselves back because they feel guilt and shame that it's too easy for them to make money. Do you hear how ridiculous that sounds out loud? And I mean, I've worked with reps that they're like, oh my gosh, that sounds so stupid to say, doesn't it? Yes, but don't beat yourself up. That's your belief. Like you got programmed at a very young age. For me, I heard over and over, Sean, my mom used to say this, you got wine taste on a beer budget, kid. And I remember thinking, no, I don't. I just want a new pair of jeans, Mom. But then I learned, I said, okay, well, I don't want your budget to control my budget. So I'm going to create my own budget, and I'm going to create, wine taste on a caviar. But I'm going to raise my income level, right? That's where I shifted. Some people are told money is the root of all evil. Money doesn't grow on trees. As you're listening, think of the stories you were told, because the stories you were told became part of who you are. Some of them serve you well. The stories I was told about honesty, about integrity, about being a good person from both my parents, those are good stories. Those are good beliefs, and I keep them. But some of the limiting beliefs about the way we love ourselves, trust ourselves. My mom was somewhat insecure. She was a beautiful woman, but didn't truly love herself. And she impressed that upon me. That doesn't serve me. If I walk around not believing in myself and trusting myself, my results are going to match that, and they're not going to be very good. I had to build my own self-love. I had to build my own self-confidence. And I did it one day at a time with the power of affirmation, the power of my own belief. And Joe, it's hard to believe in something you can't see. In religious circles, it's called faith. But in the professional world, you have to have faith that if you do the work, you're going to get the results. And for me, I've had enough successful people around me that I've watched. They say success leaves clues. When I see somebody doing something that works, I can tell you I'm one of the first adopters. That's working. Let's go do it. Let's add that to our sales process. Let's add that to my mindset. That seems to be working really well for a lot of people right now.
So funny you say what you just mentioned around faith and belief. And I saw this the other day and I thought it was pretty powerful. It's like, it's hard when we talk about having belief, say in a goal that you've never accomplished before, right? Well, how am I supposed to believe I can do that? I've never done it. Well, you can't maybe, but here's what you can believe. You can believe that you can continually learn and improve your ability to eventually hit that goal. Because that is something you can do.
Well, and one thing I found too, and Joe, the way you said that kind of leads me into that, is how can I believe in something if I don't know how I can do it? And the first step in a mindset journey on something you don't know how to do or you don't believe you can do, forget about the how. The how blocks belief. The how blocks inspiration. The how blocks our imagination. Whenever I start working with somebody on a mindset journey, and as you know, because you've done it with me, Joe, the first 2 weeks, we figure out what do you want, and we make time and money irrelevant. It's like you got a secret genie. What do you want? And even doing that, people struggle. They're like, well, I don't know how I could do that. You just went to the how. Like, fuck the how. I don't care about the how right now. You've seen some of my journey. The fact that I have the business I do today, that I have the life, I didn't know how to build it. I just wrote a letter in 2014 describing exactly what I wanted, present tense as if it had already happened in every area of my life, my mind, my health and wellness, my relationships, my work, my lifestyle. And as I set that intention without knowing how I could do it, and I had a lot of doubt. I mean, I was freaking broke. I was sick, and I was, divorced and all alone. None of my kids were coming around me very much at the time. The outside world was saying, Sean, you can't do it. Sean, you're a bad dad. Sean, you're a shitty father. Sean, you're not even a good business guy anymore. Like, what is wrong with you? And I had to go against everything on the outside and lean inside with faith, with belief, and not only in myself, but just in the power of my mind. And I literally, end of last year, I was married. A lot of people in the group know Charlie Gindell. He won the Legend of the Home Improvement Industry. He's been a mentor of mine since 2003. I got married in his backyard overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and he married me. And I was surrounded by 90 people. 60 of them were clients that are good friends of mine now. And somebody that's not in my business at all, a friend that was there came up to me and said, how did you do this? Like, this is freaking amazing. This is so many loving, amazing people. And I just looked at him and I said, I forgot about the how. I didn't worry about the how. I held in my mind everything I thought I deserved. And I went to work every single day, first believing it and then taking action based on that belief. Hows came to me. I mean, the fact that I became one of Bob Proctor's #1 consultants, I didn't go looking for Bob. Bob found me. as soon as I made my decisions of where I was going and started believing in it, Jack Canfield, I actually just before I hopped on got an email with the contract. I used to pay to go see Jack Canfield speak. He now pays me to co-facilitate with him. Like we do work together. If you say Sean, and I've had people that have been part of his organization for a long time say, how did you do it? I don't know. I went to one of his events. I got in a mastermind. I spoke to him with such belief. I said, Jack, I know your material better than anybody. I have most of it memorized. If you ever need help facilitating, I would love to facilitate with you. I said it with enough confidence and belief that he heard me. And I bet he's had thousands, if not tens of thousands of people ask to teach with him. I mean, at this time, I'm not famous. I'm not at a level of Jack Canfield, right?
Yeah.
But I have the belief of someone that is. I believe I am. Outside world hasn't met me there yet, but I'm inside. I'm already there. I'm already up there with those thought leaders because that's my worthy goal. We talk about how do you raise mindset. And one of the questions, I think Megan Beatty posted it in the group, Joe, and then somebody else. It basically was like, how do I take somebody with broken mindset and get them to perform better and think more abundantly? Or the other question, which is very similar, was how do I reframe things to get myself to perform at the highest level? And Joe, how do we do that? I mean, how do we reframe situations? How do we change our mindset? If we've got some broken mindset, and I know you've had some challenges that you've dealt with, what are some things that you've done? And I can share my opinions on it as well.
I write them all down as they pop up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if I start to see myself spiraling, I slow everything down and start writing down what I'm thinking, usually negative about. I try to identify what's the root cause. Then I try, as then I say, okay, then I challenge it. Is this just a perception or is this real?
And for anybody listening or watching this, the process of writing it down is huge. And I know I've worked with a lot of people that they say, I don't write. We're in technology, we type, but writing, when you have like the things Joe's talking about, the reasons that are holding him back, when they're in his head, they're flipping, they're looping. The second you get them down on a piece of paper, they're now stable. They're now in the physical world. And you can think about them differently. And like Joe said, you can decide to stop thinking them. You can write a powerful affirmation that's the opposite, to reprogram the opposite. But the simple step of taking what's coming up in your head, and it's called negative self-talk. I call it negative affirmation. So many people will tell me, Sean, I'm not going to do positive affirmations. It's cheesy. And I'll say, oh, really? Well, you just told me that you're not confident and you're not assertive. That's a negative affirmation that your subconscious is doing automatically for you every day. You don't think it would serve you to come up with some better things to affirm to counteract your poisoned, programmed subconscious mind? I mean, I say that a little sarcastically, but it's such an obvious thing to me, but I understand when it's not to people. I like to say I won't walk around with 40 years with my blinders on because I was doing the best I could with the information I had. And for me, the best information I had was work your ass off, kid. Like work as hard as you can and it'll pay off. And it did pay off to some level, but with blinders on, you're missing opportunity. You're missing areas for growth. You're missing connection. With me, I use mindset for awareness. I take the blinders off. I take the self-limiting beliefs and I, with a wide open lens, say, Sean, what's possible for you? If you could do and be anything, where would you be? And as I go there for just a few minutes, like you said, Joe, I pay attention to the reasons my mind says I can't. I write them down. I now have my blind spots. I now have the things that are holding me back. And now that they're on paper and stable, I can work with them. And I can ask myself, is that true? No, that's not true. Where'd you get that? Oh, that was that one time that kid bullied me. That's not true. Oh, that one time I made a bad financial decision and that happened, but that's not who I am. That's like, and you literally cross them off and either they're not true, or if you believe they're true and they're not, you got to do some affirmation work. But, sometimes we complicate a very simple process. Our mind is complicated, but the way it's programmed is very simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the first thing I do is just put it on paper. Yeah. I mean, spot on to what you're addressing there. Somebody had asked in the chat, I think originally, or commented on your post about routines.
So I'm huge on routines, and you and I have talked about this before, Joe. You were a very competitive athlete at a high level, and you had mindset routines to get game ready, right? You had things that you would do before a game. I used to be a pretty good decent basketball player. And I always use the example when I would shoot free throws, when you get to the free throw line, and every pro you watch has their own routine. For me, this is 30 plus years ago. Get down low, bounce 3 times, stand up, spin 3 times, take a deep breath, and shoot. I did it that way every single time, and it got me to an 80, 85% free throw percentage, right? Pretty decent shooter, but I did the same thing. In sales, you should have a ritual on the way to the appointment. Listen to something positive, clear the negative out of your mind. But on a daily basis, and this is for home sales professionals, but this is for anybody, you got to have a morning ritual to set the rudder of your boat of the day, right? If I go off with no direction, I'm going off. So every single day, and I've added some things to mine over the last 6 months, Joel, that have really had an impact. But number one, first thought when I open my eyes is some sort of gratitude. Some people didn't wake up today. I woke up. I'm grateful for today. I then, and for me, this is what I've added. I actually do a hot sauna and a cold plunge within the first hour of waking. And I added that to, I say my goal every day. And it's a little mini paragraph. I say it every day with its present tense as if it's already happened. I say 20 powerful affirmations that I shift and change depending on what I'm trying to program. And then I listen to a 5-minute gratitude. Those 3 things will set me on fire. And then I listen to, and I've got my program that I actually listen to, Inner Blueprint, but I listen to 15 minutes of good, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube video. But I swear by that ritual, if you will do goal work, 5 minutes, affirmation work, 5 minutes, gratitude, there's 15 minutes of your day. If you had a little bit of exercise, or sauna or cold plunge, and then wrap it all in gratitude, your results will skyrocket. I've shared before with you, John, things we've done publicly. I take the old ABCs of selling, and Alec Baldwin in the Coffees for Closers video, it gets comical for us. He's like, put that coffee down, coffees for closers. And he goes to the whiteboard and he writes the ABCs of selling. Always be closing, always be closing. Well, that doesn't always work with clients. We have to be more consultative, even if we are a closer. But I say to apply that to yourself. And my process I just described, my goal, my affirmation, my gratitude, and listening to good material, it helps me on the 3 ABCs that I'm focused on. 100% belief in the company I work for, 100% belief in the price I charge, and the most important of the 3 beliefs, 100% belief in myself. And not that I'm just a good salesperson, but that I'm a good person. Forgiveness of the past, letting go of things that we beat ourselves up over, and just going into that home with confidence in the company, confidence in the price. And again, one more time, the most important, confidence in you, that when you show up powerfully as you to serve, you're going to sell. When you show up in confidence as you, you're going to sell. When you show up believing in your company and your price, you're going to sell. And I work on that every single day in 30 minutes or less with the routine I just described.
Yeah, that's powerful because it ties back into what we just talked about a little bit ago. Without a routine, you technically are in reaction mode. You run a lead. This just happened, actually. You run a lead. It didn't go well. You get on the horn with your manager and you're like, well, I did my best. You say, okay, I'm not saying you didn't, but you're talking about you did your best during the lead. Let me ask you this. Let's roll back the hand on the clock here for the past, 24 hours. Did you prepare? Did you get up early? Were you on time? You know what I mean? You start to identify, well, no, I was late. I didn't get up on time. Then I got in an argument with my wife. Okay, so do you think you did your best when you back up that way, which is all routine?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you may have done your best in the home, but you didn't do or have your best leading into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, and maybe you can add some value here. I love analogies, Joe, but I know you have a passion for boating, right? And if you're going to take a boat from one port to another port, if you just pulled out and did the best you could, the ocean is going to blow you all over hell's half acre, right? You're going to be up and down and all around. You pull out and you have a destination in mind. And along the way, you're going to be pulled off course. It said a rocket flying to the moon was off course 90% of the time, but it had a cybernetic mechanism. Just like the boat, you're going to use you're going to use compass, you're going to use navigation device, and no matter what happens, that's what I'm doing with my mindset. And that's what we're doing with the sales process is life's going to pull us all over the place. For me, I start every day with my goal, my affirmations, That's what I'm creating. And if life pulls me away from it, I might say it a couple times during the day to get back on path. When I get in the home with a salesperson or with a customer, I have my plan. They're going to try to throw you off. They're going to try to take you outside instead of the kitchen table. They're going to try to get you to give them the price before you build any value. You have to have the plan in place, both for your life and for your sales process, to stay on point. Otherwise, you're like a boat pulling out without a sail and without a steering wheel. You're just floating.
Yeah.
And what happens to boats that float too long? They sink.
Yeah, not
Right?
a good idea.
Yeah.
I think that the routine, I mean, there's a lot to be, just like we see in pro sports. Those guys and gals are very routine based.
That's
How you drive. And aside from guys and gals not staying on model or using a model, the second biggest one is, and I think every owner on this call, every sales manager will tell you, the biggest obstacle in selling is consistency.
Yeah.
And so without a routine helps drive consistency.
Yeah, I have a saying, you're either consistent or you're non-existent. And if you don't have a consistent, if you're learning to play I've got a buddy that's a very successful guitar lesson studio owner, and he's been teaching for almost 20 years. 5 minutes a day is better than 1 hour once a week. If you're learning yoga, if you're learning a new language, and so with your mindset and with your sales, 5 minutes every day, you're either consistent or you're non-existent. And if you're consistent, I love watching Caitlin Clark play basketball, and I love what she's done for women's basketball. She's got more people. When you watch that, her shooting a three, I feel like I'm watching Steph Curry. Like, she is lights out. Have you seen videos of her in her garage that her dad built like that?
Yeah.
How many three-pointers and how many three-pointers? She can shoot with her eyes closed. She can shoot while somebody's pushing her. She can shoot with a hand in her face, right? And with you've got your word tracks, and a little kid screaming throws you off. It's like, come on, man. Memorize it. Practice it. Role playing. Anybody who's a sales professional that doesn't role play, shame on you. Yeah. You're taking these expensive leads. I don't know. Did you watch the Tom Brady roast, man?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm actually going to see Nikki Glaser here in Salt Lake City tonight. I can't wait. She was my favorite. I became a huge fan. But Tom Brady practiced every single day so he could perform at the highest level on Sunday. And he always did perform. As sales professionals, we practice on it's game time, and we're practicing a new word track on a customer. You need to practice every day behind the scenes. If you want to be paid like a high-level athlete, and I know sales reps that make a lot more money than the average, right? $1 million used to be a lot. It's not anymore. We've got 5, 6. We've got people making $500,000 selling home improvement, making more than some of the owners of the businesses because they're so good at their craft. They did it by consistency. Like, practice your craft every day. Listen to good material every day. Do your mindset work every day. I'm a solopreneur now. I'm a consultant. I don't have anybody pushing me. Every single day, I just got back from LeadCon. I arrived there at midnight Monday. I flew out and got home at midnight Wednesday. I was nonstop in between. I had to get up yesterday morning for a full day of calls. I was tired. I didn't want to get up. I could have slept in. I was up. I did my affirmations. I did my goal. I got in my sauna. I got in my cold plunge. I went to the gym for 20 minutes. I only had time for a quick one. I still did it. And because I'm so consistent in my routines and I'm so accountable to myself, my success speaks for itself. And it's that way. I don't care if you're a business owner, a high-level leader, a rep, an employee. If you're blaming your results on the company, your money doesn't come from the company. It comes through it. And it comes through like a magnet of what you're worth. And if you're not getting what you think you're worth, you need to raise your self-worth even more and start taking some different actions. I can't stand, a pet peeve, and I've been an employee and a boss, but I hate when an employee blames everything and everybody but themselves for their paycheck. Your paycheck is your responsibility. And if it's not what you want it to be, you need to do something about it. Nobody else is going to give you a raise. They're not going to hand it to you. You got to earn it. You have to add value. And commission-based is easier because we sell, we make more. But I work with a lot of people on salary that run into that trap. And it's like, you know what? You want to be more valuable? Make yourself more valuable. How do you make yourself more valuable? Invest in you. Read good books. Listen to good podcasts. Stay off time-wasting social media and spend time on productive activities.
Law of compensation, man. You taught me that.
It's all the time, man. It's all it is. I mean, I found myself, because I post a lot on social media. It's my trap. I go on to post something, and the next thing you know, I rabbit hole. And so I travel a lot, and I have downtime. And when I have downtime, I usually try to read books, but sometimes I get tired. I just want to numb my brain. I just installed a language app, and I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm like, I need to be better at my downtime and being productive, and let's learn something. I do play the guitar, and I'm very inconsistent and have been for a long time. I'm trying to play it for 5 minutes a day. I've got it in my office. In between a call, it's almost meditative. Sit down and strum, practice some chords. Consistency. My health and wellness, my diet, consistency. My relationships. I have date night with my wife every week on Tuesday. I have certain things with my daughters that I do all the time. Consistency. My money. If I'm a salesperson, I know my closing ratio. I know my NSLI. I have to have consistent lead flow. I have to do consistency in my process. Everything in life is rewarding you based on your consistency of doing the unpleasant process so you can reap the benefits, the joy, the success of the pleasing result.
It's the old better to do a lot than a lot of little.
Yes.
Right? Can you see that can you see that comment there? I don't know if you can see it. If not, I'll read it to you. How do you reset your mindset when you get off base?
Okay.
It's a good one.
Yeah. And again, what does off base mean? Are you in your head about a lead source? Are you not doing some of the things? I mean, for me, and you know this from working with my material with Bob Proctor, the first step, make a decision. There is so much power in a decision. Hey, I am going to make more money this year, and not a random number. I'm going to make X amount of dollars. That's a decision. And now I'm going to make every thought I have around that one decision. And when you make a decision, you have to ask yourself. And when I started this journey of building a mindset consulting business, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't even know what I was going to teach initially. When I found Bob's material, Bob posed the question. He said, Sean, are you interested in living the life of your dreams, or are you committed? Because if you're interested, you'll do what's convenient. If you're committed, you'll do whatever it takes. And so for me, if I get off base in my health and wellness, I have to remind myself, Sean, are you interested in living to be a happy, healthy 100 years old? Or are you committed? And if you're committed, you're going to wake up earlier than you want to. If you're committed, you're going to do some cardio, even though you hate cardio. If you're committed, you're going to skip dessert, even though you love ice cream. If you're committed, you're going to do whatever it takes. In sales process, if I get off course and I'm not getting the results I want, I have to ask myself, I don't, if your income goes $200,000 and you're at, barely $100,000 and it's August, you have to ask yourself, are you committed or are you interested? If you're interested, you're going to do what's convenient. You're not going to hit it. If you're committed, you're going to role play. You're going to start doing some affirmation work. You're going to maybe listen to some of my good material that's free on social media or somebody's good material. And you're going to be committed every single day to taking actions to get your program thinking that's not working to better program thinking that will work for you. And that's literally what it is. If you're off base, look at your result, look at your pattern thinking that's created that result, and change the pattern thinking. And sometimes the way to change the pattern thinking is ignore the result you don't like and think about the result. If I'm looking at $10,000 in my bank and I want 100,000, the more I look at 10,000 or even zero, let's say you have zero. I've had zero in my bank account. I went almost belly up a decade ago. When I look at no money in my bank account, I think about it, I feel about it, and I act in accordance to it. If I ignore there's no money in my bank and I imagine, imagination is the power of creation, I imagine I have $100,000 in my bank and I think about that and I feel about that, I take action in alignment with that and I ignore the result I don't like. And I've used this process. When I started this journey 10 years ago, diving deep on mindset, I had a dad bod. I was overweight, out of shape. I was on heartburn medication. I was being prescribed antidepressants and testosterone. 10 years later, I just weighed in at 188 this morning, hormone-free, prescription-free. All I do is supplement, affirm, exercise moderately, eat better foods. I'm in the best shape of my life. 51 years old. I turned last month, I guess a few weeks ago. I have changed everything by changing the thoughts that I think every single day. And I'm not interested in it. I'm committed to it. And that means I will do whatever it takes to protect my business, to protect my family, to protect my health and wellness. Those are the three areas I focus on: finance, health and wellness, and relationship. And around those three, I mean, I've seen a lot of balanced wills over the years. So have you, Joe. If you get too many wills or too many spokes on it, I've done one that had 12 areas we're measuring ourselves. Holy shit, that's too much. I'm not going to focus on 12 areas. I like threes. I'm into numerology, and numbers have power. The power of three and the power of a trifecta or triangle. It's a very strong shape. Finance on top, health and wellness, self-love at the base. When I work on the base, my money grows. So the more I work on being in good shape, mentally and physically, the more I work on loving myself, the more money I make. I build value in me at the base. My value to the outside world goes up. And that's been a proven process for me for the last 5 years specifically, to go from zero to I'm not stopping, man. My worthy goal is a $100 million personal development training organization designed specifically for the home improvement industry that helps millions of people worldwide remove self-limiting beliefs, the chains that hold us back. I won't do the whole thing, but that thing's memorized.
I don't think you've ever said that before.
Have I not to you out loud? I've been saying that every day for 2 years, man.
I know. I love it.
Millions of people worldwide remove self-limiting beliefs, the chains that hold us all back, so more people may live their lives in freedom, abundance, fun, and love. I am a chain breaker. I am a freedom maker. It's done, and I love it. I fucking love it. And then I go into how much money that my associates are going to make, my give back to the world. I give my money away as I'm making it. How much money is going to hit me in Caitlin's investment account and personal accounts every single month. How we're going to love, inspire all of our beautiful children, her two daughters, my 4 kiddos, to do the same. And then I go into my affirmations. I am love. I am light. I am confident. I am happy. I'm healthy. I'm whole. I talk about my appearance. I want to build more confidence in how I look, how I feel. I talk about I don't ever want to be cocky or boastful. I am confident. I am humble. I am grounded. All those words, when I say them over and 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 over, and I write them down over and 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 over, they become a new paradigm. They become a new program, and then they come out of me effortlessly.
That's why I love you, brother.
I love you. And we're all energy. And if you don't bring this energy into every sales presentation, you got to raise your vibration. When I get on a stage, when I get in front of a customer, they can tell 2 things. 1, I care. And 2, I believe in what I'm doing. And I have 100% belief in my company, my price, my program, and I have 100% belief in myself. And you don't hear it. It's not the words I say. It's my energy I bring. And I've cultivated that with daily affirmation, with the process I described at the beginning of this Windshield. If you will take this on, if you will get intentional, and again, you can't do it for you. You have to have a give back. There has to be purpose. The home improvement industry, if you're a sales professional, you are protecting the number one investment for most Americans, their home. You're putting a roof. You're a protector of the home. You're putting a kitchen. You're the entertainer of the home. Whatever it is, you're adding value. And the more purpose you put in that, the more people you help. Even charity work, the more you give your time freely here and there, the more financial abundance you get to have. And I'm such a huge believer. The more purpose, the more heart I put into my work, the better my results have gotten, both financially and just in reward. I mean, Joe, you sent me a text. I get text messages, emails every single day of people I work with that are winning. They're having breakthroughs in their mind, which is creating breakthroughs in their relation. And again, I love it. It's not just money. It's not just stuff. I'm getting off antidepressant medication. I stopped drinking alcohol. I don't smoke dope anymore. I don't have anxiety as much as I used to. I've lowered it. I have a better relationship with my son. I actually look and feel better than I ever have. I actually am present sometimes. I used to be a scatterbrain and always worried about the future or thinking about the past. And now I'm just more present in every moment with the people I love. That's what mindset work is able to provide for people.
Fire. You mentioned earlier or a second ago, you talked about commitment, and it's back to our favorite, or again, at least my little favorite pamphlet, Common Denominator of Success. He talks about it in there about how it's every day you have to recommit until eventually you just wake up one day and it's just seamless.
It's part of who you are. Yeah, it's part of who you are. I mean, the only challenge to that, and I want to mention it because I know for me, every once in a while, as much work as I've done, something will happen that will trigger an old paradigm from something that happened in the past. And the mind goes negative very quickly. But you have to understand, and this is a level of awareness, but the reason the mind goes negative quickly And the reason the news channels broadcast negativity before positivity is because the mind is attracted to it. The human mind, God gave your mind two primary jobs above everything else. Keep Joe efficient and keep Joe safe. And because it's always trying to keep you safe, it will always go to the extreme negative first, sometimes take you to fight or flight to protect you from things that aren't actually danger to you. They just are fear-based, right? And so for me, even though I'm at a pretty good level on all of my areas, I continue to do it every day because I know how quick I can slip. I know how quick my mind can pull me back into old thought patterns. And I don't get mad at my mind. I don't say, you dirty son of a bitch, you subconscious, why are you pulling me back to the negative? I respect it. I say, thank you for warning me, but those things aren't true for me and they're not mine. And I'm a different person. I'm a different man today than I was then. I'm not going to surrender. Joe, I don't know if I've shared this with you, but a new analogy I use when I back my SUV out of my garage to take my daughters to school 5 days a week, the warning system on it beeps. And it beeps because I'm within 2 inches of the garage door jamb. It's warning me that I might hit it. I could disable it. I don't because it's my daily reminder. That's what my subconscious mind does all day. When I get in a situation and it thinks I'm going to get uncomfortable or maybe I could get hurt, not just physically, but emotionally, it starts beeping like my car. I'm aware of the beeping. I hear it, and then I tune it out. Shut up. Shut up, subconscious. I love you. Thanks for the warning. I don't see any danger. I have yet to hit my garage door jamb, knock on wood. I look in my mirrors. I drive straight backwards. There's no danger, but it still beeps. And sometimes your mind, when you get into a house, it'll start beeping and you'll change course when you shouldn't have. You should have stayed on system. You should have stayed on process. You should have stayed in belief. But your beeping subconscious, the guy's looking at his watch. Oh my God, he's not interested. Their eyes are getting glazed over. You go into reactive. You hear your mind chirping. It warns you. You change. Sometimes you got to ignore it. You got to assess the situation and say, you know what? I hear you, subconscious, but you're full of shit right now. I appreciate you trying to warn me, but there's no threat here. And I'm going to keep going because if I keep going, that's where my growth is. That's where my abundance is. That's where my success is.
You know what this just made me think of, and this is going to sound extreme, but
yeah,
this isn't, I mean, not me, but I know enough and I've read enough about Alcoholics Anonymous. They say you're always an alcoholic. You're never not an alcoholic every day. And I think that
100%.
concept can be used here in the sense of like, hey, this is how you're wired. Like you're talking about fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
We're worried about our brain is thinking a lion's behind the door. It's not, but it's always there. And you got to I don't say battle, but you just have to, same way, like again, with AA, you can be clean for 20 years. They still acknowledge that they are, first and foremost an alcoholic.
Yeah. Because all it takes is one drink.
Correct.
Every alcoholic, and I've dealt with. I don't know if you know this, Joe. I lost my younger brother about a month ago.
Yep.
A little over a month ago. And you want to talk about purpose to my work? 9 years younger than me, better looking than me, smarter than me. Grew up in a home with both parents where I only had one until I met his dad. And the kid ended up homeless. And he ended up passing away from an accidental overdose. And they found his body on the side of a gas station in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's one of the hardest things I've had to deal with because here was a person that had everything it took. But he started smoking pot in high school. He had an overactive mind. It was a very powerful mind, but he got led into addiction. And he knew he couldn't have just one drink. And he knew he couldn't have just one hit. And when he did, it took him on a binge. And, that was a repeat cycle for him for a bunch of years. And again, I only share his story for people's like learning and growing. He didn't have purpose and he didn't have self-love and confidence. The work that I do with mindset, I help everybody I work with. What's your big goal? What's your purpose? What do you want and what are you willing to give? When you have purpose, you're hard to stop. And the second thing I have everybody I work with work on is self-love. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to attract the love. If you don't value yourself, you're not going to attract value. If you don't take care of yourself, nobody else is going to do it for you. And I use his memory to help people. I work with a lot of young 20 to early 30-year-olds that are doing very well. And my number one work with them is creating purpose and awareness and self-love and confidence. Because every single one of us, Bob used to tell me, my mentor Bob Proctor used to say, you're God's greatest creation. And when you're a newborn child, your spiritual DNA was perfect. And the only reason you think differently came from other people and experiences that you didn't create and beat you up. So let's get you back to original self, to higher self. Let's get you loving yourself, trusting yourself. Let's get you hooked on a big goal that will give you purpose every single day so you can power through the challenge, because challenge is going to come at you. Challenge still comes to me. I mean, just because I'm a mindset coach and I'm positive doesn't mean it's easy. Every single day I have challenge with my clients, with my personal life, with my kids. Stuff comes up all the time. I use the power of my purpose and my self-love and confidence to show it more powerfully so I can give more to those that need it. And that's, that's part of my mission. That's how I'm going to get to helping millions of people worldwide.
How's the new program going?
So I taught Bob Proctor's Thinking into Results for almost 5 years. It's a very effective program. It was originally designed for big corporate, and it's used a lot today for life coaching. I used it specifically for the home improvement industry, but after 2 years of a lot of my clients, and especially my wife, Caitlin, saying, Sean, do your own material, in January, we kicked off Inner Blueprint, Remodel Your Mind for Success. It's a 12-module program designed specifically for the home improvement industry. It starts with module 1, what do you want? We go step by step from taking your idea to a belief. We give you tools and tricks every step of the way for affirmation, for visualization. And I do it, as you know, Joe, in group coaching. So if you join my group, I have a men's group for business owners. They're all home improvement business owners in this space. I have a women's group that's some owners, some partners of owners, some stay-at-home moms, but it's powerful women that are all tied some way to the home improvement space. I've got an in-home sales professional group. Joe, I don't know if you know this, but I got my first client from the UK, Ozzy, who's in the in-home sales.
Oh, yeah, Ozzy, good, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, Ozzy's doing some real good work on himself right now. And I've got a leaders group for if you're a production manager in operations, any kind of leadership, I've got your group. And we take my material, we put you in a group setting where everybody in the group is working on better finances, better health and wellness, better relationships. Joe, I saw good success before. We're on our second round of Inner Blueprint. I'm getting feedback from all my clients that it hits harder than Bob's material, that we are making them more uncomfortable sometimes because of the directness and because it's so streamlined. I mean, I'm very intentional. Even the titles of my modules are questions to ask your higher self. Like, what do you want? Don't come up with the answer, listen for it, right? But yeah, so far so good, man. It's a great program. I'm not here to sell my program. If you're not currently doing mindset work, do some mindset work. Read Think and Grow Rich. It's a book not to be read, but to be studied. But studied specifically for sales, chapter 9 on persistence, which dials into consistency. And if you like what we're talking about, I do have space in all my groups. I'm always looking to take on new clients. There is a little bit of a screening process. We do a behavioral profile. We assess where you're at, where you want to go. And if it's a fit, I put you in a group. I give you an accountability buddy in the group. And if you're in two of the groups have 2 calls a week, one for lesson, one for support. The other ones are smaller, so they only have one because you get both. But ton of value. The material is life-changing. The people you'll surround yourself. I mean, I've literally got, now a guy in the UK and a guy in Sarasota, Florida, they're accountability buddies, sharing their experiences, selling similar product lines in different areas. I've got people that have become best friends out of working in my group. So yeah, it's fun to do work like this that I'm so passionate about, that provides such immediate and positive results for people.
I think it's I will say this, I think it's the one thing that before someone gives up on this industry has to attempt this kind of training with you, because you got to identify. I saw someone post, not in our group, but in some other group the other day. It was like, what's a good industry to do, to work in, to sell in a recession? And I responded, which I didn't normally, I was like, anyone that you commit to, right? The industry doesn't go away.
Look at COVID. Everybody thought COVID was going to kill the home improvement business. It blew it up. And now we've got inflation and things that are making it a little bit more challenging. But there are always old homes that need improvements. And there always will be. And in fact, there's only going to be more homes that are older as time goes by. I mean, I think, and I haven't Googled in a while, I think it's a $500 billion industry in the United States, home improvements. Yeah. That's a big industry. And you can, if you want to enter the sales side of it, you don't need a college degree. You don't need licenses or specific training. And most companies will hand you expensive leads that you can go make money on. It's like, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I've seen people go through years of college, even some of my friends that went into law and medicine. It took them almost a decade to get to what I've seen people in their 20s and a couple of years be able to make in the home improvement industry. I mean, if you want to make multiple 6 figures, working a pretty flexible schedule, depending on the company you work for, helping people improve their their number one asset, their home. Home improvement's where it's at, man. It's, you've been in it with me just as long. It's a great industry. We got good people. We got good mentors. We got good trainings. There's so many good organizations. You've got, Grosso, you've got certified contractors, you've got the Breakthrough Academy. Those are ones that I'm familiar with. They've got great training. My mindset makes every one of those trainings work better. They're the process. I'm the mindset to make the process. And if you need help, there's so many people willing to help. My mentor, Charlie Gandell, he's retired. He's volunteering at different organizations. He's working one-on-one, and he's undercharging and giving away a lot of it. Find somebody that's doing what you want to do, reach out to them, ask some good questions, and be surprised and amazed of the support. And again, if you're locked in saying, I can't do it, there's no opportunity, that's an issue. That's an issue, not an issue not an issue on the industry. It's an issue. Fix you, you'll fix everything. And if you want some cool tools that are designed specifically to fix you, and again, it's not fixing you, it's getting rid of the bullshit and finding original you. Because original you didn't doubt, didn't question, wasn't stuck in scarcity, didn't have a bunch of limiting beliefs. You were a newborn baby that loved life, and you were just happy to crawl around, eat some food, and get your butt changed once in a while, right?
Here's and I don't want to hold you up longer, but here's what I'll say to this. And I'm gonna catch shit for it, but I don't care.
Go with
I'm all about conferences, right? Home improvement industry. They got them. I got another one to go to in 2 weeks here, and it's great, right? Good for them. But the problem doesn't lie in that people don't know what to do. It lies in them doing what they know. The only way you are going to address that is by getting with somebody like a Sean, because it's some kind of interference internally that's blocking you from doing it.
It's
right?
a knowing doing gap, right? I mean, that's what took me from.
Guys know how to do it. Like there's something else. It's the elephant that's tied to the stick with a reed, right? They got all the power in the world. Or I posted in the group one day a picture of a restrictor plate for cars. And you got to strip, you can have all the horsepower you want under the hood, but if that restrictor plate isn't allowing it to flow or it's blocking it in some way, and that restrictor plate's the mindset. It's the mental toughness to say, fuck you.
And the problem is a lot of times it's hidden. It's subconscious. So it's like a submarine in the ocean. You're not even aware it's blocking you. And my program, when I get you thinking big, we find blind spots. When you start telling me some BS reason you can't have it, and I call you out on it, and the whole group calls you out on it and says, holy shit, that's a program paradigm. That's not true. A lot of business owners are afraid to leave their business. They don't even go to conferences because they're afraid everything won't fall apart if you leave your business. And even a sales pro. I know a lot of sales pros that when they do take time off, they come back and they had 2 or 3 jobs roll in while they were out of town, and somebody else helped them close it, and they might lose a little bit of commission, but life goes on. But you are limiting yourself I'm still limiting myself. I'm still looking for my blind spots. I've been doing this at a high level for 5 years. I know I'm still blocking myself. I'm not looking to the outside world. I'm constantly looking inside of me. Sean, where are you blocking yourself? Where do you have a hidden limiter? And the only way I know to uncover them is start thinking even bigger. So that's why I went to 100 million with my training. That's a long shot from where I'm at. As I focus on that today, I'm getting in the energy and becoming the person, the man that I need to be to build that organization. And every day as I go into that energy, something new comes up of why I shouldn't or why I couldn't do it. That's a self-limiting belief. That's a restrictor plate. I'm going to attack them. I'm going to attack every one of them.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in it, man. I had all the talent in the world. I've said this before about myself. I had all the talent in the world to play big league baseball. I mean, there was no physical restriction. God gave it all to me. So what in the heck happened?
And going back to Tom Brady, when Tom was a backup quarterback in college, he wasn't a highly touted, you know what I mean? And physically, he wasn't a specimen. There's been way more talented quarterbacks over the years. Tom has excellent mindset. Tom is consistent. Tom is dedicated to his craft. I mean, he still is showing his dedication in the things that he's taken on after football. He does the same things every single day. He's consistent. He has good mindset. He works on his mindset. And, for you, Joel, same thing. I probably could have been a professional athlete if I decided to. I let myself, I never made it past high school. And even in high school, I wasn't consistent enough. I know. I can tell you why I didn't. I didn't apply myself. I applied myself to chasing girls and starting to work full time in high school instead of chasing academics and sports, right? It was a decision.
Yeah.
Anything we go back to, you were interested but not committed. And right now, where you're at in life, are you interested or are you committed? Because if you're committed, you're going to do whatever it takes. And we live in an age of information. You can Google mindset, paradigms, subconscious. Dr. Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza. I just found a new one, Joe, that I'm freaking loving. Mind Magic. The gentleman's name, Dr. James Cody. This guy's a rock star. He came from an alcoholic father, a mother that had strokes, had very humble beginnings, grew his wealth to like $80 million, lost it all, realized he'd done all the work on the outside, and then went inside. And he shares. And the cool thing is, sometimes my work gets called new age or kind of out there. I call it woo-woo. It's not. This is a neurosurgeon. He explains the science behind fight or flight, the science between and it's a powerful tool to shift your mindset. The other one, just for listeners, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. One of the best books I've ever written. Talks about how success is programmed into us, talks about how failure is programmed into us, talks about the self-image. He was a plastic surgeon. He'd fix somebody that had a deformed nose. The image wouldn't improve because the inner image was so strong. You got to work on your inner image, and you got to use your cybernetic mechanism of goal setting and set it higher than you think is possible, and you will see huge growth. And the most important part of all this, Joe, let's take it back to what it's all about.
Yeah.
When I'm not worried about the future and I'm not focused on the past, and I live in the present moment, focused on my abundance, my freedom, my love, and my fun, I have a better life one day at a time. I'm not chasing happy. I'm not chasing riches. I'm living happy today. I'm living rich today. Even if it doesn't always show up around me, I have the conscious choice every day to be present, happy, and grateful. And I choose it over and over again. I choose it.
Dude, I love you, brother.
Good energy. I appreciate you. Let's stay connected and keep talking, man. Let's keep growing.
Yeah. And everybody, if you've been in the group at all, you'll see Sean in the group. I personally can attest, if you just reach out to him, even if you don't want to join or can't join his consulting and his groups. I know Sean very well. He'll help.
No, I love helping people. That's my jam. Have a good weekend. Go do something fun.
You too. Thank you.
And just like that, we've laid another brick in the foundation of your incredible journey. Thanks for tuning into the Inner Blueprint podcast with Sean Foya, your navigator through the maze of mindset and success. Remember, every tool you need is already in your belt. It's all about how you use them to craft the masterpiece that is your life and business. Now, don't let the momentum stop here. Follow me on social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcast to never miss an episode filled with the blueprints to your best self.